It was a cold Tuesday night when a single father stopped for a crying nurse and her baby standing in the rain, unaware that she had lost everything except hope. What he didn't realize was that saving her would become the one act that ended up saving him, too. This is the story of how one decision, on the worst night of two people's lives, became the start of everything. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. The rain slammed against the windshield like bullets. Liam Carter squinted through the downpour, his rough, calloused hands gripping the steering wheel as lightning tore across the Washington sky. It was 11:30 on a Tuesday, 14 hours into a shift that had left him completely drained. Bone-tired didn't even come close. That's when he saw them, two figures huddled under a flickering bus shelter, a woman holding a small child, both drenched to the bone. Something about the way she clutched that little girl made Liam's foot slam the brake before his brain could stop him. He learned a long time ago never to ignore that gut feeling. Pulling over, he opened his door and stepped into the storm. The rain soaked through his jacket in seconds. As he approached, he could finally make out her face beneath the dim yellow light of the shelter. Young, maybe 30, with beautiful dark brown skin and natural curls plastered to her cheeks. But it was her eyes that froze him. Pure desperation. "Ma'am," he shouted over the thunder, "are you all right?" She looked up, tears mixing with the rain. In her arms, a little girl whimpered softly, her big brown eyes wide and scared. "We're fine," the woman said, her voice cracking under the weight of the lie. She was wearing hospital scrubs under a thin jacket, clearly a nurse. "You're both going to get hypothermia out here," Liam said gently, his deep voice steady despite the storm. "I've got a son at home with a sitter. I'm heading back now. Can I give you a ride somewhere? Hospital? Police station?" Her face crumbled. Fresh tears streamed down her cheeks. "I don't," she stammered, barely getting the words out. I don't have anywhere to go." 6 words, and they hit Liam like a hammer. He knew that look, that hollow, defeated look. He'd worn it himself once. "Come on," he said quietly. "Let's get you both out of this rain." 20 minutes later, Liam was unlocking the door to his modest 2-bedroom rental, ushering the shivering woman and her child inside. His neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, a kind-hearted woman in her 60s, who'd been watching his son Eli, quickly gathered her things when he explained there was an emergency. "You're a good man, Liam. Your wife would be proud," she whispered before leaving. "Let me grab you some towels and dry clothes. I'll make you some tea, too." The woman stood frozen in the entryway, still clutching her little girl as if she couldn't believe what was happening. "I'm Nora," she said finally, her voice trembling. "I'm Nora Bennett, and this is Sophie." "Liam Carter," he replied softly. "Nice to meet you, though it were under better circumstances." He handed her some towels and one of his flannel shirts. "Bathroom's down the hall. Take your time." While Nora changed, Liam peeked into his son's room. 7-year-old Eli lay asleep, a comic book resting on his chest. The sight made Liam smile, despite the exhaustion pressing down on him. He pulled the blanket up around his boy before heading to the kitchen to put the kettle on. When Nora returned, 15 minutes later, Sophie was wrapped in a towel and wearing one of Eli's old shirts. Her hair was still damp, and though she looked a little better, her eyes still carried that haunted look. "Sit," he said, motioning toward the kitchen table. His own hair was still wet from the storm. "You don't have to tell me anything, but if you want to talk, I'm here." Nora hesitated, then sank into the chair. Sophie was asleep in her lap, her small hands clinging to her mother's shirt. For a long moment, Nora just stared at the steaming cup of tea, her fingers shaking slightly around it. And then slowly, everything began to spill out. "I've been a nurse at Silver Creek Medical for 6 years. I've been a single mom since Sophie was born. Her father left when he found out I was pregnant, said he wasn't ready for kids, like anyone ever is." Liam said nothing, just listened. His calm, steady presence seemed to help her find her words. 6 weeks ago, the hospital got bought out. They fired 15 of us, replaced us with cheaper, less experienced nurses. Just like that. 6 years of loyalty, double shifts, missed birthdays, missed milestones. Gone. None of it mattered. That's it? Liam asked, his jaw tightening. That's it, Nora echoed bitterly. I've been looking for another job ever since, but nursing circles are small. Word gets around. Everyone assumes we were let go for a reason. She swallowed hard, blinking back tears. My savings disappeared fast. Sophie has asthma. Her medication's expensive. Yesterday I couldn't make rent. My landlord gave me until today. Her voice broke. I called everyone I knew. My parents are gone, no siblings, and my friends... She shook her head. You learn who your real friends are when you're desperate. Liam listened silently, feeling something in his chest tighten. I spent the day selling what little I had left, she whispered. It wasn't enough. By evening, my stuff was on the sidewalk. Locks changed. I watched strangers pick through my life like it was a yard sale. Where are your things now? Liam asked gently. Gone, she said simply. I took what I could carry. A few clothes, Sophie's inhaler, my nursing credentials, a couple of photos. Everything else. Her composure cracked. My grandmother's quilt, Sophie's baby book, all gone. Her voice fell to a whisper. I called every shelter I could find, all full, so I just sat there in the rain trying to figure out how to tell my 4-year-old we didn't have a home anymore. Liam swallowed hard. He knew that kind of desperation, the kind that makes the world feel like it's closing in with no escape. You'll stay here, he said quietly. Nora's head jerked up. What? No, I couldn't. You'll stay here, he repeated firmly. I've got a spare room. Well, more like an office with a futon. But it's warm and it's safe, at least until you get back on your feet. You don't even know me, Nora protested. For all you know, I could be lying. I could be dangerous. I know you're a mother who'd rather sit in freezing rain than put her child in danger. And I know you're a nurse who got dealt a bad hand. I know what it's like to need help and have nowhere to turn. His voice softened. I can't fix everything, but I can give you both a safe place to sleep tonight. We'll figure the rest out tomorrow. Nora covered her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Liam quietly slid a box of tissues toward her and gave her space, understanding that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is just to let them cry. When she finally looked up, her eyes were red but searching. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Nobody helps strangers anymore. Liam's gaze drifted toward the dark hallway where his son slept. His voice dropped low. Because once, no one helped us. The reason he stopped. Liam stayed quiet for a long moment, staring toward the hallway where his son slept peacefully. Then, in a low voice, he said, 4 years ago, my wife died. Ovarian cancer. By the time they found it, it was already stage 4. Nara's expression softened, her hand instinctively reaching across the table. We tried everything. Chemo, radiation, experimental treatments, stuff we couldn't afford. We sold everything, drained our savings, maxed out every card, took out loans on the house. She fought so damn hard, but in the end, it wasn't enough. His words came slowly, heavy, like each one had to push through a wall of pain. When she passed, I was left with a 3-year-old boy who didn't understand why his mom wasn't coming home, and a mountain of debt that took 2 years to crawl out from under. I'm so sorry, Nara whispered. I lost the house, most of our stuff, had to start over from scratch. Took the first job I could get, construction, hard labor, long hours. Moved us into this place. He gave a small, humorless laugh. It's not much, but it's ours. He paused, eyes distant. After that, I just shut down. I wasn't living anymore, just surviving.
Wake up, get Eli ready, drop him off, work until I could barely stand, pick him up, feed him, bedtime, repeat, every day. Nara listened silently, her eyes glistening. "For how long?" she asked softly. "Too long," Liam admitted. "Friends stopped calling, families all back east. They offered to take Eli for a while, said I needed time to grieve, but I couldn't let him go. He was all I had left. I had to be there for him, even when I didn't know how." He leaned forward, his voice quieter now. "Some days I'd sit in my truck during lunch break and just exist. No thoughts, no feelings, just breathing. There was no one to talk to, no one to hand him off to when it got too hard. So I kept going, one step, one day at a time." Nara's voice was soft when she asked, "What changed?" Liam gave a hollow laugh. "Nothing. Not really. I still go through the motions most days. Still trying to figure out how to be enough for him. But tonight," he looked at her, really looked at her. "I saw us 4 years ago. Drowning, desperate, invisible." He reached across the table and gently covered her hand. "I think the only thing that gives meaning to what we went through is if we can use it to help someone else. No one was there for us when we needed it. Maybe I can be that person for you." Fresh tears slid down Nara's cheeks, but this time she was smiling through them. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea what this means." "I think I do," Liam said quietly. "Get some rest. We'll figure out tomorrow when it comes." Part 3. The Morning After. Morning sunlight spilled through the curtains, warm and golden. Liam woke to the sound of small footsteps and a tiny, curious voice. "Dad!" Blinking sleep from his eyes, Liam stumbled out of bed to find Eli standing in the doorway, his big brown eyes wide with confusion. "Buddy, keep it down," Liam said gently, steering him toward the kitchen. "We have guests. I'll explain." As he flipped pancakes, his one true breakfast specialty, he told Eli the simplified version of last night's events. The boy listened quietly, brow furrowed as he tried to make sense of it all. "So, they're staying with us?" Eli asked finally. "For a little while," Liam nodded. "Sophie's been through a lot, so I need you to be kind, okay?" Eli nodded solemnly. Then, after a pause, he said something that made Liam's throat tighten. "Like when Mommy got sick?" Liam froze. Eli rarely mentioned those days. He'd been so little back then. "Yeah, buddy," Liam said softly. "Kind of like that." "Then we should help them," Eli said matter-of-factly. "Because nobody helped us, and it was really hard. I remember being scared a lot." The simple honesty of those words nearly broke Liam. "You're right," he said, voice rough. "We should help them." Just then, Nara appeared in the doorway, Sophie on her hip. She looked unsure, like she wasn't sure she was still welcome. "I'm so sorry. We didn't mean to intrude. If this is too much—" "Pancakes," Liam interrupted, motioning to the table with a grin. "Fair warning, they're not gourmet, but they're edible." Nara hesitated, then smiled faintly and sat down. Over breakfast, the two kids watched each other with cautious curiosity. Eventually, Sophie broke the silence. "My bunny got lost. Mr. Flopkins. Grandma made him before she went to heaven." Eli thought for a moment, then said with childlike confidence, "We can make you a new one. Dad taught me how to sew buttons after Mommy went away. We could figure out a rabbit. Maybe not as good as your grandma's, but it'll be yours." Nara looked up, her eyes shining, gratitude and disbelief mixing into something wordless.
Days turned into weeks, and what began as a single act of kindness slowly transformed into something neither of them expected. At first, the arrangement felt temporary, an unspoken agreement that Nora and Sophie would stay just until she figured things out. But as the days passed, the house began to change. Liam noticed it first in the smallest ways. The smell of real food, not instant noodles or reheated leftovers, drifted through the kitchen again. The once silent hallway echoed with laughter. Two children chasing each other, their giggles bouncing off the walls like sunlight. For the first time in years, the place felt alive. Nora insisted on helping around the house. She washed dishes, fixed the squeaky cabinet door, and even tackled the garden out back, a patch of weeds Liam hadn't touched in years. "Can't have the kids thinking this place is haunted," she joked one morning, wearing a pair of his old gloves and a determined grin. He smiled, something he found himself doing more and more lately. The job hunt. Nora spent her afternoon sending out job applications on Liam's old laptop, the screen cracked, the keyboard missing the letter E. Sometimes she'd sigh, shoulders slumping. Other times she'd close her eyes and whisper a small prayer before hitting submit. Liam would catch her like that sometimes, and he'd want to say something, words of comfort, maybe hope, but he never quite knew how. So instead, he'd do small things. He'd make an extra sandwich for her lunch, fix her bike tire, leave the porch light on when she worked late on applications. One night, after the kids had gone to bed, she found him sitting on the porch, a mug of coffee in hand. "I got an interview," she said quietly. Liam turned, surprise flickering across his face. "That's great! Where?" "Community center. They need someone to manage events and coordinate programs. It's not much, but it's something." He grinned. "It's more than something. It's a start." Nora looked at him, her eyes reflecting the porch light. "Thank you for letting us stay, for everything." "You don't owe me thanks. Just promise me one thing." "What's that?" "Don't stop trying. You're stronger than you think." The garden comes back to life. By mid-April, the backyard was no longer just a mess of dirt and weeds. Nora had turned it into a small oasis. Neat rows of tomatoes, herbs, and wildflowers. Eli and Sophie spent afternoons digging, watering, and proudly presenting their finds. Rocks shaped like hearts, worms they called earth dragons, and the occasional butterfly. Liam would watch from the kitchen window, a quiet smile tugging at his lips. It was the same window where, months ago, he used to stand alone, staring out at nothing. Now he saw color, life, hope. The return of laughter. One evening, a thunderstorm knocked out the power. Instead of panic, the house filled with laughter as Nora and Liam lit candles, turning the living room into a glowing fort. Eli and Sophie demanded a ghost story, but halfway through Liam's dramatic retelling, Sophie shrieked, "Too scary!" and dove under Nora's blanket, making everyone burst into giggles. In that moment, with rain pounding the roof and candlelight flickering over their faces, something shifted. Liam looked at Nora, and for the first time in years, he felt warmth that wasn't grief, wasn't duty, wasn't loneliness pretending to be strength. It was connection. He didn't say a word, but the look they shared said everything. The day of Nora's interview dawned bright and calm, the kind of morning that felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something good to happen. She stood in front of the mirror, smoothing down the only blazer she owned. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the collar. "You look perfect," Liam said from the doorway, holding out a steaming cup of coffee. "Go knock 'em dead." Nora smiled nervously. "I haven't been to an interview in years. What if I mess up?" "Then you'll try again," he said simply. "That's what strong people do." Her eyes softened, and for a fleeting second, she wanted to hug him. But she didn't. Not yet. Instead, she nodded and whispered, "Thank you." When she left, the house felt strangely quiet. Liam busied himself with chores, though his mind kept wandering back to her. He didn't realize how much space she had filled, not just in the house, but in his life. That afternoon, the door creaked open and Sophie ran inside shouting, "Mommy got the job! Mommy got the job!" Nora followed, breathless and beaming. "They hired me on the spot," she laughed. "Full time, benefits, and they said they loved my energy." Liam couldn't help it. He pulled her into a hug before he even thought about it. For a moment, the world seemed to stand still. When they finally stepped apart, their eyes met and both knew something had quietly changed. Weeks later, the four of them sat together in the living room. Eli showing Sophie how to build a Lego tower, while Nora read a book on the couch. Liam was fixing a loose picture frame on the wall when Sophie suddenly looked up and said, "Daddy, can you help me?" The room froze. Nora's head shot up. Her eyes widened in surprise, maybe even embarrassment. But Liam just turned slowly, smiling as he knelt beside Sophie. "Sure thing, sweetheart," he said gently. Nora watched silently as he helped her stack the last few pieces, patient and kind, his big hands steadying her tiny ones. Later that night, when the kids were asleep, she found him outside again. That same porch, that same quiet hum of crickets. "She called you Daddy," Nora said softly. "I know," Liam replied, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "It caught me off guard." "Does it bother you?" "No, not at all." He looked at her, his voice low. "It just made me realize how much she's become part of this place, how much you both have." Nora swallowed hard. "We never meant to take over your home." He chuckled. "You didn't take over. You brought it back to life." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The night air was cool, the stars scattered like diamonds across the sky. Then, quietly, Liam said, "You know, I thought my story ended when my wife died. But now I think maybe that was just the middle." Nora blinked away tears, smiling